Hello, and thank you for joining in on my 365-day journey. I hope you also working on a plan for change, because that is what I'm focusing on, and will be continuing to focus on personal change even beyond my 365-day challenge, to be an ongoing encouragement. Welcome. My name is Anna Delman. If you are new, and if you are returning for more familiar encouragement, welcome to you as well. I am on day number 290 of my note writing, and I'm continuing with what I started the week with, and that is on how to train up a child to change, and then I link that to the changes we can bring about as adults in our own lives and what that requires of us. Often we have to be bent, we have to be stretched, and we have to tie ourselves down to get it right, and to make sure that we reinforce those mindsets that we've cultivated along the way to bring about that change to our lives. Now, my note is correcting our patterns of behavior to redirect the course of our life. How to do this? You need to analyze your mindset. What do you believe? Now, if this is something new to you, you're going to self-justify your behaviors and say, I'm behaving because of this, in this way, because this really horrible thing happened to me yesterday, a week ago, a year ago, 10 years ago. And as much as that was something most probably horribly ugly that happened to you, your behavior today becomes a choice. The shock, the adjustment period to something happening is understandable, but when it completely changes who you are as a person in the negative, it is not a good thing. You need to reassess that. The goodness comes out of it once we have recognized all of that, and we progress to positivity, even irrespective of how bad those things were that occurred. So how do you do this? Analyze your mindset and what you believe. Reason with yourself. Talk to yourself and transform your life. Now, on the whiteboard, I have added Romans 12:2 and Philippians 4:8 on verses that we need to look at. I also want to go back to yesterday's discussion where I spoke about, and the day before that, where when a bow gets made and arrows get crafted in the ancient Near East when the Bible was written, and you have to tie it in place, and that sometimes we need to tie our own mindset down. And then I gave an example of in the rural areas where there's very little modern methodologies in practice. The United Nations Task Force, this was maybe about 10 years ago, went out to a rural community, and they discovered a woman had tied her child by his wrist to a tree. It was long enough that he could move around, however he couldn't be freed from it, and the team were aghast at what they saw. However, when they brought this woman and her child back for help in the city, many people still condemned her. However, I had an office at a special school working with cognitively impaired children, and when I observed her, I wasn't part of the faculty, part of the teachers. I was independent from them, but I could observe. And because I came and went with more freedom, I could see her interaction. When I saw that she came to school every day with her son, because help was offered her, and by helping her son as well, the devotion she paid to her son. When you're in a position like she was, and people are hurting your child because they believe he is possessed because of his cognitive inability to reason in any way, he was severely impaired. And if he strayed away from you when your back was turned and he would be injured and you had no source of help, nothing, what would you do? So sometimes when we see a child being treated in a way that is difficult, now I'm not speaking about clear abuse, there is a difference, but in a situation where we need to take a step back, and before we say this woman treated her child badly, was she doing the best from love out of her heart in what she had available to her to help her child? If you're living in a more advanced environment, are you doing everything in your power to help your child with what's available in your community. If your child has problems, that's something we all need to consider. But talking about our mindset, whether we want to bring changes to ourselves, our habits, whether we are instructing a child, the best methodology is to reason through their behaviors and assess how that is affecting them. Mindset changes. Now, spanking, depending on how you spank, you do not brutalize a child. It's more of a tap than anything else to get their attention. You don't do that in isolation. You cannot. That is not correct. You need to sit down and talk to them. Why am I disciplining you in this way? I've tried all these things. You're not listening to me. Let's try and get your attention another way. And this is why. The changes I need. Why I need you to stop. Why I need you to do something. Friends, you know what it's like as an adult when you get to a point in your life and you've never been corrected. And suddenly you come up whack against a wall and you hit your nose. You fall down flat, because you've not been prepared to deal with difficult people in life. It is like you are being whacked on your rear, except you're being whacked across the face. And I'm not talking about literal, I'm talking about a figurative. You absolutely feel like you've been hit with a 2x4 across your head. A circumstance is so bad because you've never been trained. You've never been prepared for it. You need to change the way you think about certain events in life to prepare you. So let's take a look at Romans 12:2. Now, if you've been here for the 290 days, I've referred to this verse before for behavior change, life change. Let's look at it again. Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. It's the renewal of your mind. You have to change the way you think about life, about people, places, and things, about those events in your life which were so hurtful to you. And you most probably can never change your mind about that. I can't change my mind about things that occurred here. Even when I've analyzed it differently and I've looked at it differently, I come back, not to justify myself. And friends, you need to take that out of the equation. Do not justify yourself. Just be completely objective. Assess the difficulties you've been through. The end of the day, you still come back to the same understanding of what occurred, the facts. Remove your feelings from it. Remove your emotions, the facts. And you assess it and you come back to the same, that it was ugly, nasty, and downright immoral, and those people need this and that done to them in the law to be dealt with. And then you are free from anything and any power that should have in your life. We're talking just about your emotions here, not the law. We are talking about you and how you respond to things. You need to then be transformed by the renewing of your mind. You agree that was ugly and nasty. Now, it might have been so bad that you're deeply scarred inside, but that can heal. You need to look to God for how He would want you to look at life. So as I'm mentioning that, let's go to Philippians 4:8. Now, friends, I've also discussed this in the past. And finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellent, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. Verse 9, what you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, practice these things, and the God of peace will be with you. You may never be able to change your understanding of the icky ugliness that has occurred in your life, but you can be grateful that God saw you through it. And even in the most horrendous difficulties, if you think back to that, you can see glimmers of Him calling you to rush to Him. That He has been there, that He saw you through, and He preserved your innermost being through it all. And friends, that's what we need to focus on in how we instruct children. They go through nastiness in school. I was just watching something on YouTube a short while ago of a senior in high school somewhere, and how he had catfished his classmates in horrible ways. My goodness, this is what the youth of today have to live with. When I was 16, 17, 18 years old, I never had to deal with stuff like that. Sure, there were nasty kids kids in school, I was in boarding school, so I didn't only have it from 7:30 to 3, whatever school hours are. I had it 24/7. There are nasty, ugly people around us, irrespective of our age. But we need to be transformed by the renewing of our mind and how we respond to that. Sometimes we need to be quiet. We need to step back. And even if you're alone, you do not need to associate and befriend people just to have community who are nasty and icky people. Read a book. Read a book. Find something to occupy your time. Go out and help other people. Cultivate your children to be nurturers of others and encouragers of others. We live in a very difficult world, and with the internet, which can be such a blessing, YouTube can be such a blessing, but it can also be negative at times too. So friends, I hope that encourages you, and I look forward to being back again tomorrow to encourage myself some more through the day, and I will be encouraging you at the same time too. Until then, take care and God bless. Bye bye for now.